We are here. We are depressed.
Just booty today.
We left the whiskey downstairs. We're just, after that movie.
Oh my God.
You really don't want to be drinking after watching something like that.
No. The anxiety, the sadness was all so palpable the whole time.
We just watched Leaving Las Vegas, 1995 film by Mike Figgis.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, but it was rough.
One of the better movies I've ever seen. Now that I've had a little more time to process it, it was so good. It was so sad. It was heart-wrenching from beginning to end.
Yeah, I want to say the acting was across the board from everyone in it amazing.
Everyone.
Totally believable. Like, I bought every character.
Yeah.
Every moment. I was just on board. The directing, really cool.
Great.
Like, artistic shot composition, cool style, pacing, the music, the editing.
Yeah, dude, the flashing. Oh my god.
It was so good. Everything that was in there added something, added another layer to the experience, reinforced a theme, made you feel something.
God, especially that music. Oh.
The music was a combination of like sort of classic fun songs from the time period.
Yeah.
With like this frenetic jazz and sort of like cool lounge jazz almost.
Yeah. Sometimes it was really low key, But yeah.
The music was awesome. It really set a tone that at times was lighthearted and sort of like fun or like optimistic. And then it's backdropping these dark, sad, poignant moments.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that too. The juxtaposition between horrible sadness and beauty was evident the whole movie. You'd get these sunsets and then him blackout drunk, next to each other.
Yeah, and that was definitely deliberate. The character was very self-aware.
Oh, yeah.
He was aware that, I guess we should probably explain who our characters are. But before we even get into all of that, it was really beautiful seeing how serene and happy and like at peace Nicolas Cage's character was, given that he was literally killing himself.
Yeah, the conscious decision to be dead.
He was like
soon.
Detached and suicidal and fully had accepted his own incoming death.
Made jokes about it. I mean, wild shit, dude. Yeah. Well, shit, we should introduce. This is Booty Whiskey, episode 4, Leaving Las Vegas. I'm Austin Jenny. Sad and depressed.
What do you do for a living?
I'm sad and depressed. No, I bake cookies for homeless shelters.
Nice. That's really noble of you.
That's the movie.
In theme, you're showing a lot of grace and compassion and pitying those in need.
Do what I can.
Speaking of those in need, my name is Patrick William. I'm your other host. I'm a professional cookie eater. I sit outside of like where you bake a lot, and I do steal the cookies.
Get them before the homeless people do.
You're doing a good deed, but I'm sort of undoing it, and that's the yin and yang of life.
I get it, man. We're booty and whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing's great, one thing's a detriment.
So yeah, Leaving Las Vegas. What a ride.
Amazing.
Beautiful piece of art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we even get into plot, like this was just so well made and such an emotional piece of art that really just made me, once you're on the ride, it didn't let go of me the whole time. And it just like created these feelings and emotions inside of you. Like, I noticed your leg was like tapping.
Literally, I was anxious as fuck, dude. The pit of despair in my stomach. It was just so real. Every single aspect of it. I fully believed every part of the story. The actors, the actresses, all of it. It was just real fucking sad. Made me dread making this podcast a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to do it now.
It's like too big and too heavy of a subject matter to be lied about. So, I mean, we don't have to be lied about it, but the movie itself was kind of light at times.
It was.
It's a very dynamic, I guess, emotional movie because it's showing you self-destructive behavior, people in pain, true suffering, and then it's playing this like jazz music, and the guy's doing it with a smile on his face, and he's cracking wise,
gambling, having a good time.
Yeah. So, Leaving Las Vegas is the 1995 American drama written and directed by Mike Figgis, based on the semi-autobiographical 1990 novel of the same name by John O'Brien. Nicolas Cage stars as a suicidal alcoholic who, having lost his family and been recently fired, decides to move to Las Vegas and drink himself to death.
Fuck.
He loads a supply of liquor and beer into his BMW and gets drunk as he drives from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Once there, he develops a romantic relationship with a prostitute played by Elizabeth Shue, and the film shifts to include her narrative perspective. And yeah, I mean, that's more or less it. It's just a romantic movie about two people who are both down on their luck at really like the lowest points of their lives.
Yeah. Very different ways of being down too, you know, extremely.
They meet each other and they both have something that the other person needs.
Yeah.
Which is companionship and trust and care.
Yeah. And, you know, Sarah's character, she wants to, or you know, the character Sarah wants to help something. She wants to redeem herself. She wants to do a good deed, essentially. And Nick Cage can be that guy. But there's also natural chemistry immediately.
Yeah. So he's sort of like, despite being drunk and alcoholic and everything.
And suicidal.
He's still charming. And he's still sort of like a funny guy. He's got this good sense of humor. Because his character is a writer.
Yeah.
In the movie, he's a screenwriter. And
he seemed to be successful, too.
He's supposed to be a good writer, too. Like, he gets props from these two other people in the business that he sort of runs into in a restaurant. They don't want anything to do with him. They sort of try to brush him off and get him out of there. And then he asks one guy for money. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. I never want to see you again.
Yeah.
But it's implied, basically, that – or they say something along the lines of, like, yeah, I liked your work. Like, he's a good writer, but due to his severe alcoholism, he's – estranged from the people in his industry. Nobody actually like wants to be around him. As
you wouldn't. I mean, we've all seen alcoholics like that. It's
uncomfortable.
Hard. It's hard to be around those people.
Yeah. And they just get this sense of isolation. That's a big theme, I think, and it's a big part of why Sarah is she's such an endearing character because she pities him but doesn't want him to change.
Yeah.
She doesn't try to force him to change or like be better. She just accepts him for who he is and loves him anyways.
And enables him.
Yeah, she enables the shit out of him.
Often. Yeah.
At some point I wrote in my notes just big letters, toxic relationship.
Yeah, man, this notepad. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh. So Sarah has a pimp named Yuri.
Latvian pimp.
And he's a scumbag, you know.
Terrible.
Followed her to Las Vegas from L.A. And, you know, he beats her up, abuses her.
Cuts her.
Forces her to give him all her money. Obviously, there's like sort of typical pimp dynamics there. But, you know, you think it's going to be a big issue between like the pimp and Nicolas Cage. His character, his name is Ben. We should establish that. Between the pimp and Ben. And then what actually happens in the movie is the pimp just goes away because he has a debt with these other guys and he just gets killed.
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, which I thought was a pretty cool like turn to the story too.
Yeah, she's free, you know.
Yeah, so she goes from being sort of under his thumb to being quote unquote her own boss. Yeah. She says that sort of with a wry smile. She's like, I'm my own boss, you know.
Yeah.
So it really at that point just becomes a story of a woman who, you know, she's hoeing.
Yeah.
But she's not being like abused anymore. She is her own boss and she has a decent amount of money at the time.
Yeah.
And she just decides to sort of try to take care of this miserable fucking guy.
Under the condition, which was very important, I wrote this down. He says, you can never, never ask me to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Which is fucked, dude.
Yeah.
My God.
So he's living at this like Fleabag motel called the Whole Year Inn.
Yeah.
And he looks up at it, at the sign. It's like a red neon sign. It says the Whole Year Inn. And it flashes back and then it says the hole you are in.
Yeah.
And
Very
I thought
clever.
that was really clever.
Yeah.
That was good writing. He's at the bottom of his life, but he's living in this motel, the hole you're in. And she insists that he comes and stays with her on the couch because, you know, he deserves better.
Yeah.
And he's pretty apprehensive at first because he knows, like I said, he's pretty self-aware.
Yeah. Of the whole thing.
And intelligent. He's very cautious, and he tells her, you haven't seen the worst of this.
I puke all the time.
I fall over. I break everything. I'm emotional. I'm a mess. And he gives her all the red flags up front. He gives her the warnings. He's like, you don't want to have me in your home, but I do love you. And he admits, like, at some point he admits he loves her, but he knows he's a piece of shit. And he doesn't, what does he say? He doesn't want to inject his miserable soul into her life and make his problems her problems.
Well, he's trying to spare her because he knows he's going to kill himself.
Yeah, exactly. And she ostensibly accepts that or understands that. But she, like you said, she wants to do something good.
Yeah, it's about redemption for her. And she obviously forms a connection with him. But.
And she eventually loves him as well. And the more that their relationship strengthens and the more love that she feels for him, the less capable she is of watching him drink himself to death. And she obviously struggles with that oath she made him.
But she still enables him.
That you can never, ever ask me not to drink.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she buys him a flask.
Yeah.
She buys him new clothes.
Asks him to go to the doctor eventually.
Well, that's towards the end where she's really wrestling with the fact that he's drinking himself to death. It's becoming very clear he's sicker. He keeps developing. Yeah, his conditions are getting worse, and she's at the same time getting more in love with him. And so she's like, one of the sort of climactic points is her asking him to go see a doctor. She's like, you can do this one thing for me after everything I've done for you. Do this one fucking thing. It's the least you can do. And he says, I'm never going to stop drinking. He looks at her with disdain.
Yeah. Like he's disappointed that she would even ask.
Yeah. He's like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
I told you at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is my road.
I'm going to kill myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And the heartbreak in her eyes and the heartbreak that you feel watching it.
Palpable.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Like I'm honestly glad that we watched this during the day and not the night, because then I wouldn't have had to go sleep on that fucking shit, dude.
You don't want to dream about this movie.
Not at all. Yeah. Fuck.
I thought it was also interesting. They keep editing in these clips of her describing her life experience as a prostitute to someone who you never see.
No voice, unnamed therapist, we assume.
Yeah. Well, earlier in the movie, I had all these questions about it, and by the end I sort of landed on the idea that it probably is just a therapist.
Yeah.
But because they never show the person she's talking to, it sort of leaves it up in the air.
It's not important. It's just that she's telling her story.
I couldn't tell, like, is she telling it to him, and is he writing her story because he's a writer? There was all these ways it could have gone, but it sounds like by the end of the movie, like, she's describing her relationship with him too after he died. So
yeah,
she's in therapy probably.
I had a thought she could be, I don't know, she could be talking to herself, sitting next to his dead body in that same room.
Yeah. She is in the room with him when he dies.
Yeah. So, but I don't, it's left unclear, like you said, I think purposefully.
It's not important.
No.
It's just an artistic mechanism for us to see her perspective.
Yeah.
And she's giving this interview, and she says something that's pretty important, I think, early in the movie. As a prostitute, she says, I've always been good at walking into a room, seeing and identifying what a person's fantasy is right away and becoming that fantasy. And she says, I can give someone what they want and become their fantasy right away.
Put on a perfect performance.
And in one of the next scenes, we see Nicolas Cage talking about one of his fantasies as he's waiting in line somewhere. He's talking into a like handheld recorder,
The
like
bank, yeah.
like all those old journalists used to do. There I was,
A little cassette recorder or whatever.
yeah, in his hand. He's just recording his ideas, and he's talking about one of his sexual fantasies about having a woman pour whiskey, bourbon all over her body, and him drinking the bourbon off of her.
Yeah.
And it really sounds like he's more in love with alcohol than the woman.
I wrote that exactly.
And his fantasy is to drink a whole bottle of bourbon off of her body and then clean her up. And later in the movie, we see her do exactly that for him.
Yeah.
So it's like this callback to the fact that she's able to identify a person's fantasy and become it. And that's part of what she's doing. She's using her skills as a hoe to like embody something for this man to, I don't know, bring him some measure of happiness.
I guess so.
Satisfaction.
Peace. I don't know.
She just pities him so much. So she's doing like whatever she can figure out how to do to make him happy. And yeah, we keep getting these moments of her talking to a therapist that sort of bring you this clarity about who she is as a person and what she's doing it for. And yeah, we get the sense that she's had such a hard life. The interactions she describes with like getting cummed on her face and then wiped it in her hair and it just makes you feel icky.
And when so when she falls asleep, right, with Nick Cage the first night, because they just stay up talking. He hires her as a prostitute, right? Pays her $500. She gets back to the place with him, starts sucking him off.
Tries to at any rate.
And he seems uncomfortable.
He's not even in it for the sex.
No, he wants companionship, and that is it.
Yeah.
He asks her, just, will you stay?
Will you just talk to me? Let's just talk about stuff and hang out. And it's the easiest $500 she's ever made. So she says yes. But yeah, she falls asleep, doesn't get any more tricks that night, and then goes to Yuri pretty much empty-handed the next day.
Yeah, just the 500.
He hits her, and she grabs a knife defiantly at first, but then she just like hands the knife to him and bends over, and she's like, "Just do it."
Yeah.
And then you see this flashback of him cutting her.
Yeah.
Her like upper thigh and butt area, like
back area, and you see that scar later too. And Ben traces it with his finger, but. Dude.
Gnarly.
And then Yuri's reaction was so weird, too. He just starts yelling in Latvian, I assume, or whatever. And yeah, that was just... goddamn, dude, this movie was uncomfortable.
A lot of uncomfortable, like, trauma.
Yeah. Everything was so matter-of-fact as well. The way they would talk about sexual acts and then just suicide, everything. It was cut and dry. This is the facts about it.
Yeah. If you are the type of person that has severe trauma or PTSD from something like abuse or rape,
I wouldn't watch this movie.
Don't watch a movie like this.
No, yeah.
It's really raw, real. Man, just like the scene at the end, she gets raped by 3 guys. And she puts herself in a dangerous situation as a prostitute with these 3 young guys, and she's got no pimp anymore, no protection. Like she said, she's her own boss, but she's like acting recklessly because Nick Cage has sort of scorned her love, and he's out God knows where.
Well, I mean, that's right after he fucking brought a stripper into her house. Or not a stripper, but a prostitute into her house.
Yeah, so she's torn up. She's emotional, and she goes out and self-destructs almost like as a mirror to him. She self-destructs and makes this intentionally unsmart move. She knows better, too.
Yeah.
And she puts herself in a situation where she ends up getting hit and raped.
Yeah.
And, there's some very graphic scenes of blood in the shower and stuff. Yeah. I don't even really want to go fully into it.
I would rather
that's
not.
Enough.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it doesn't need.
Just take our word for it. When you watch this movie, there's some really like gut wrenching content.
Extreme trigger warnings.
Yeah,
for real.
No shit.
And that fucking cabbie dude, that piece of shit.
She gets in the cab, and this fucking guy can tell she's been raped and starts cracking rape jokes.
Yeah. About. Oh man. I was like, fuck. I was getting heated at this
know,
movie.
My fucking leg was
dude,
restless. It's like you want to run away.
Yeah, seriously.
You just want to escape.
Yeah, man. I wanted to talk about his eyes, the development of his eyes the whole time. The makeup. He was pale and gray, and fucking his eyes just looked more and more dead. And when she would talk to him, and he would just look right through her, just not absorbing some of the shit that she would say. It was so hollow.
He had a true, like, 1,000-yard stare. Like,
Absolutely.
There's just nothing there. He's just vacant.
Yeah, and even seemed to get, like you said, feel disdain when she would bring up the more serious stuff.
Yeah, he's like, you don't get it.
Yeah, you're not changing my fucking plan.
Yeah.
You're just along for the ride if you want.
Exactly. And to her credit, she literally said, I accepted him for who he was. I didn't try to change him. I really loved him. And she's saying this to her therapist, we presume.
Yeah.
After he's already dead. And so she, too, had a sort of, I don't want to say, like, cold, because she's clearly compassionate and in love with this person, but she understands what's happening, too, and she almost, like, guides him to his own death by enabling him.
I know. Leads him across the river Styx, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking wild. Yeah, man, the enabling thing, I can't reconcile with it, you know? Like, it must just be because she's already been through so much fucked up trauma and abuse. She's able to detach herself from the reality of his situation, in a sense. I don't know. It's just she's okay with it. Okay with everything.
Yeah. Well, and
but also not. I don't know.
She's not, because she wants to act like she is at first, because she doesn't want to try to force someone to be someone they're not. And he gives her all these warnings, and she's like, okay, but you're staying at my house tonight, etc. And I think she thinks deep down that she can save him and that she can, like, turn him around.
Yeah.
And he even says something that I thought was a very intentionally written line, I think, where he says, let's talk about tomorrow. And it's like, there's a lot of space around that line when he delivers it. And I think that the phrase, let's talk about tomorrow, when it's coming out of the mouth of a suicidal person, is deeply symbolic.
No, we're not going to talk about that ever.
But also, tomorrow means the future.
Yeah.
Which, if you're really going to kill yourself, you don't have one. So, what are you talking about? The fact that you would say, let's talk about tomorrow, maybe it's, like, hope inspiring for her. Like, there is the possibility that if he falls in love with me and I give him something to live for, we can talk about tomorrow, and we can make a future together and come up with these plans, and we can build and grow.
For sure.
And the heartbreak comes from the fact that despite his very real love for her, he still won't give up the alcohol, and he still kills himself.
Yeah. Man, I mean, it shows it in that last scene. He looks at her, says, wow, and then turns his head, looks at the bottle, and dies.
Yeah.
It's the bottle before her.
And there's a scene where he's, like, puking at night. He's going through the shakes, and he gets up in the morning, and he calls out her name. He's like, Sarah, Sarah, and walks in the kitchen. And then she's like, oh, hey. And he walks right past her to the fridge and starts drinking. Starts mixing vodka and orange juice.
Yep. Fucking shaking so much.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so real. I've seen people shake like that, and it is horrible.
Yeah.
You have to be so fucked.
There's a reason that he won all the awards.
Yeah.
His performance was so visceral.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll go out on a limb and say this now. I think in this series, best acting we're going to see from Nick Cage.
I mean, I can't imagine any of I've seen a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all the movies we're going to watch.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this one till today. But, I mean, I think this is going to be the performance to beat.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I mean, other than, like, Mandy and Pig, for me, I think those are maybe closer, but they're still not. It's just not a...
What, Wicker Man's not going to do it? Let's forget about your goddamn honey.
Yeah, man. Just fucking sad, but amazing. That's the whole thing. It's a movie that needed to be made. I think.
Yeah. I want to read a quote from Roger Ebert.
Please.
Leaving Las Vegas is one of the best films of the year, deserving many Academy Award nominations. That such a film gets made is a miracle. One can see how this material could have been softened and compromised, and that would have been wrong.
Yeah.
It's a pure grand gesture. That he's an alcoholic and she works the streets are simply the turnings they have taken. Beneath their occupations are their souls. And because Ben essentially has given up on his, the film becomes Sarah's story about how even in the face of certain defeat, we can at least insist on loving and trying. And he likens it to a tragedy in an opera.
Yeah.
And it really is a sad movie. It is a tragedy, but at the same time, it's very like poetic and serene and beautiful. And it triggers like feelings in me about, I don't know, like the temporary nature of life.
Absolutely.
Altogether. Like maybe I'm not actively killing myself the way he is, but my life is coming to an end at some point.
Yeah.
And if I could hold that knowledge and still have a smile on my face and still love someone deeply, knowing that I'm going to die, there's a genuine tension there.
Yeah.
Right? The act of love in the face of the inevitability of your own death is hard to reckon. Some people don't try.
Absolutely.
And some people do. And to be willing to try is an act of bravery.
Yeah. Man, I was so hopeful at the beginning of this movie. Like, you know, and not the very beginning, but just when they started to really fall in love, I thought there was a chance that she was going to save him.
Yeah, me too. Especially when he said, "Let's talk about tomorrow."
Yeah.
I was like, really, oh, symbolism.
I know. And when she asked me to go to the doctor, I was literally begging, please fucking go. I was
Say yes.
Yeah.
Acquiesce.
Yeah. And he just looks at her.
The look he gives her. He's like, I will never stop drinking.
Threatens to fucking leave.
Yeah, he says, maybe I should go back to the motel.
Yeah. Oh.
His exact words.
Dude. Yeah, I don't know. It brings that up with me as well. Just the tension between, you know, trying to find love with someone that is so deep that it can conquer any sort of existential fear of death and knowledge that it's coming.
It's like the biggest problem of being alive.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest hurdle in front of everyone is this existential reality of your own death.
And we all know. And most of us choose to completely keep that out of our head. You know?
Yeah, don't think about it.
Yeah.
But this guy is constantly thinking about it. In fact, he's pursuing it.
And okay with it. Yeah. And we don't even know why. That's the other thing, dude. We don't even know why.
Yeah, so
we just know he's doing it.
The story alludes to his past. He had a wife and a kid.
Yeah.
He's divorced, maybe. At any rate, they're not together. They don't tell you what happened with the marriage.
They could have died. Who knows? That's what I guessed, at least.
They tell you that he got fired, but not why.
Mm-hmm.
It's presumably because of the alcoholism, but again, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like if you get fired and lose your wife and kid, that can also trigger the alcoholism to go further. So we don't know what role any of the past parts of the story played in terms of like creating a timeline towards what we're seeing now.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the point. It doesn't matter. The point of this movie is that it's like a love song. Yeah. You're seeing these two souls swimming around together.
Draining down the pool together.
Yeah, they really are like in a oh, that's such a good metaphor.
Yeah, that's fucked.
They're in an emptying bathtub and they're just fucking along for the ride.
Dude. This was a hard movie to watch. Just overall. Well, I think maybe the hardest movie I've ever watched. I can't think of one that made me more emotional, and it never gave me time to process. Like, I could have cried if there was, like, less shit in between all of the fucking buildup of shit, trauma, garbage that happens. But no, it just kept happening, and then the movie was over, and he died.
Yeah, he dies, and then they roll credits, and it says, leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, which I didn't understand before.
And, yeah, I understand the title now, because it's his soul leaving Las Vegas, because he's made his final exit.
Mm-hmm. Dude, from the very beginning, He knew he was going to kill him. Oh. This fucking movie.
Emotionally brutal, for sure.
Yeah, man.
The content is extremely raw, real, rough. It's a hard watch, but it's also funny. It's also light at times. It's charming.
Yeah.
The music keeps you like rolling right along.
It is hopeful at times.
Yeah, there's like these moments of hope. There's these moments of levity. He's always cracking jokes and smiling. He does have a lot of charisma and charm despite being alcoholic, and she's very funny too. And you really like these characters.
Yeah.
You really want them to succeed.
But in the end, it's not even about the characters.
No.
No.
It's just about having grace. It's about showing grace and love and pitying the people that need your pity. And
juxtaposed to self-destruction and, just unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah. Can you show pity to someone else while you're destroying your own life?
And yes, they do.
Can you care more about someone else than you care about yourself?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's, I don't know, in my own life experience, I've found it much easier to care about other people more than myself. I've digged myself in some pretty deep holes where I will do something for someone that, even though it's going to not benefit me at all, I want to do it because I want to make them feel good, just because the act of them feeling good might make me feel better,
And some people, I think, especially people who have been through certain types of traumas, there's a tendency towards like not believing that you are worth something, not knowing your own value or being able to correctly assess your own value. And it's easier, I think, to value someone else if you're that type of person than to value yourself. It's almost like, well, it would feel arrogant or cocky to value myself. Like if I asked you to make a list of the things you love, top 100 things, like
is yourself one of them?
How long would it take you to name yourself,
And maybe you don't even realize that while you're making that list,
Yeah, it's like, should I put myself on this list?
Yeah.
And of course you should.
You should.
The truth is you absolutely should be on your own top 100 list of things you love.
But that's not the reality.
Self-love is hard.
Yeah.
And it's easier to externalize your love, I think, and validate other people, especially when you can see their suffering. Mm-hmm. You can see it.
And you can directly fix it without having to tackle your own emotional battles.
Yeah.
Not fix it always, but help, quote unquote.
It can give you a mission that's easier to understand than what a mission would look like to heal yourself.
Yeah. I think that's just part of the reason this movie was so moving. It's like just so many situations I've seen personally, not personally too, just stories of time gone that people just don't know how to love themselves. And neither of these characters love themselves. Not in the fucking slightest. No. They can barely love the other person.
Right.
They're giving all their effort to even do that while falling apart at the seams.
I wanted to give a shout out to a really fun scene right at the beginning. I just thought this was like really funny and a cool way to start. This is I guess a good example of like editing and directing, but it cuts from a shot of him drinking, like a profile shot. It's just bottle to mouth. And then it cuts to another shot of him drinking, like the silhouette is the same, but now he's driving.
Yeah.
He's in his car driving, drinking straight out of a bottle.
Chugging vodka,
as fast as he can while driving. And then a cop pulls up on a motorcycle right next to him, and he drops the bottle down out of sight right as the cop's pulling up. He drives alongside him for like 20 seconds, like an uncomfortably long scene.
Looking at him, checking. Like the cop probably saw.
Looking at him. And then the second the cop pulls away, the bottle comes right back up and he's chugging it again while driving.
Exact same position.
Yeah, and he's driving into Las Vegas, and that's like sort of the prologue of the movie. He's like going in.
Dude, the way it's desperate. He desperately is chugging the alcohol.
Yeah.
He is forcing it down his throat. You know? Like he needs to get it down so he can kill himself as fast as possible.
He's not even letting it just flow out of the bottle. He's like sucking it down.
Yeah.
Like he's thirsty for it.
Oof. Haunting.
Yeah, it is haunting.
Dude, it really is.
It's hardcore.
Yeah. Do you want to watch that GQ video?
Yeah, so we have a clip here of Nicolas Cage himself describing his role for this movie, and there's some pretty fun parts in here, so I'm just going to play it and we can listen to it,
Yeah.
and react and whatnot.
When I read that script, I thought it was the coolest relationship I'd ever seen. Even though one was an alcoholic and the other was a prostitute, I thought there was so much compassion in that relationship. And I had seen all the great alcoholic performances. Ray Milland in Lost Weekend, Jack Lemmon in Days of Wine and Roses, Dudley Moore and Arthur, Chris Christopherson in A Star is Born. All brilliant. And I took something from all of them. From Christopherson, I took that beautiful smile, even though he was drinking himself to death, that smile. From Dudley Moore, the idea that he didn't know how to modulate his volume. But it wasn't until I saw Albert Finney in Under the Volcano. I saw him walk through the streets of Mexico, and I went, that guy's really drunk. And I asked about it. I asked Mike, because Mike had worked with Albert, and I said, was he really drunk? And then it got back to me that Albert said, no, you tell Nick that I would take a swig and I would spit it out just so I get the taste of it, and I wasn't really drunk. I said, okay, cool. And then my cousin, Roman Coppola, he said, you should go hire Tony Dingman, who was at that time, very drunk, also a poet. Hire him and just watch him and have him be your drinking coach. And
Okay, I just wanted to pause it
Yeah.
and react to a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
He says early on that he was attracted to the script because there was so much compassion between the two characters, and I really think that compassion is like probably the main theme of this movie.
Yeah, compassion. I mean, yeah, that pity and
Yeah, just not being too hard on people. Like, this guy is a full-blown alcoholic, and those two guys in the beginning of the movie,
yeah.
they don't even want him around.
No, not
They
at all.
want him to. They're so uncomfortable being near him. They want him to get out of their lives as quickly as possible.
Literally pay him to.
He's a
essentially.
nuisance.
Yeah.
Whereas Sarah, she has compassion and she still sees the problem, but she's willing to look right at it.
Yeah.
She's not like, well, maybe she's disgusted or something, but he's not a nuisance. He's a person.
He's a human being.
And he still deserves love.
Yeah.
And that's like the main, I think, takeaway.
And the flip side, because he expresses how much he doesn't, he does care about her being a prostitute and such, but he's fine with it because she's still going to do her thing. She's going to be the person she is, and he's just going to exist right there with her.
Yeah. And then the
Very
other thing
interesting.
from this interview so far that I like is the level of research that he did. He's watching all the classics.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking stuff from different actors and synthesizing it into his character.
This is actually a common theme in his acting, too. He loves to pull things from older movies and older actors and bring that into his stuff. Like when we were watching Ghost Rider, the way that he was using his hands and stuff, he pulled that directly from other old actors. Super interesting that he does that.
He's very resourceful, and he is definitely the kind of person that truly respects the craft.
Oh, God, yeah.
He's a student of the game.
It kind of bums me out when people don't know this stuff, Like, a lot of people don't know. One of my friends the other day was like, oh, Nick Cage sucks in every movie. I'm like, you haven't seen fucking 4 Nick Cage movies.
Yeah.
Okay, you've seen Ghost Rider and National Treasure.
Right.
He loves this.
Yeah, he lives for cinema.
Yeah, this is why he was put on Earth,
For sure. And he makes strange choices from time to time.
Of course. He's a weirdo. He's a fucking freak, dude.
But he's also an artist and a craftsman, and he can really pull things together and put his soul on the table for you.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a prime example. He laid it all the way fucking out.
So I had Tony on the set with me all the time. The poor guy, he'd be curled up in a fetal position in my trailer as I'm playing bongos, because I was trying to play bongos to get some sort of syncopated rhythm, some sort of music for the character. But I would watch him. He would say the most poetic, drunken things. Like, you do not kick the bar. You lean into the bar. Because it's not vino veritas, it's en vino veritas. He would just spout these things out, and of course I put them all in the movie.
That's so cool.
We mustn't kick the bar, we lean into the bar.
Knowing where these things came from.
Vino veritas.
Very glad to watch
And
this.
vino veritas.
Who the fuck are you talking to?
It was a 4-week shoot. Thank God it was only a 4-week shoot, because there were a couple of scenes where I really wanted to be hammered, because I wanted to be out of control and have them photograph that so I could reach that kind of credibility of authenticity of what I saw in the streets of Mexico and under the volcano.
I really
the scene
respect
that comes
that.
to mind
Committed.
is the casino scene where I say, I am his father, and I flip the table and have a blackout. I didn't know I was going to go there. I knew I wanted something extraordinary to happen, and they.
That's so cool. He didn't know what he was going to do, and he was actually drunk, and he just improvised that scene.
You would never think that from watching the movie. Like,
It's so impressive.
I thought that was a planned every action, flipping the table, flipping the shot glass and shit. Wow, dude! Like,
that's so cool.
Just such good acting overall.
And to actually get drunk, like that's sort of a common. I feel like that's a common trope of like when you're watching a stoner movie or an alcohol movie, like Beer Fest or How High. It's like, oh, I wonder how high they were.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, they're not fucking getting high, man. It's a Hollywood movie. It's all fake weed. It's all fake. They're drinking water. And most of those movies, they're just sort of, they're just acting.
Yeah, and you can, on a lot of those, you can tell that they're not stoned or drunk, you know? That, he was so believably drunk the whole time. Yeah. I thought that he could have been that drunk the whole time.
I want to find this quote and read it as well about Nick Cage's research.
Yeah.
Director Mike Figgis encouraged the lead actors to experience their characters' ordeals firsthand. He said that Cage researched by binge drinking in Dublin for 2 weeks and had a friend videotape him so he could study his speech. He also visited hospitalized chronic alcoholics. Cage said it was one of the most enjoyable pieces of research I've ever had to do for a part. Presumably he likes drinking.
Likes drinking, but I mean, I'm sure it was also just enlightening for him to see the stage of someone who's in a hospital with alcoholism. Like, that's so...
And he's got his cousin's friend who's an alcoholic, like, living in his trailer during filming. This guy was all in on getting it right, being authentic.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the scenes, he's actually shit-faced drunk. If he's not actually drunk, he's performing with like 99% authenticity to.
Dude, the withdrawal scenes,
his shaking and leg tremors, and like the look on his face is so gaunt.
Yeah, man.
He looks almost yellow and pale, and like the makeup is so good. He just looks sick, like a dying man.
Yeah, I also noticed this and noted it. We did not see him eat a single bite of food.
He tries multiple times in the movie to eat, and he keeps making excuses. Like I think I put too much salt on this, and he doesn't eat it, and he just drinks. Yeah. Every time he's supposed to be eating, someone else is eating across the table from him. He's just drinking.
Yep, takes a sip. Yeah, he thinks he can eat some rice. Takes a fucking sip.
Yeah, she's like, I got you some plain rice, so I think when you're ready, you should eat it. And then later he's like, Sarah, I think I'm ready to eat that rice now. Drinks.
Never does.
Doesn't get the bite of rice in.
Yeah.
It's just hard to watch someone self-destruct because even though it's in a movie, it's like it's still triggering the same emotional responses. If you were seeing that in front of you, it's like I feel so bad for this person.
Absolutely.
It's triggering like real pity response in my brain.
I mean, especially if you've seen that before. If you've seen someone throw their life away and put themselves in a pit of despair like that.
If you've got a friend or a family member who's like struggling with substance abuse or alcoholism.
Suicidal thought, all of that. Yeah.
It's going to be really real for people if they have any of those sort of.
Or if you yourself has gone through it, you know? I mean, our buddy who watched it with us was bringing up memories of really bad relationship that he had in his previous life.
It's a hardcore story. There's no way around it.
Yeah. And I'm glad that they didn't soften it. Like
Roger Ebert said, it's like softening it would have been a disservice to the story, to the emotional impact of what's happening.
It absolutely needs to be this raw.
It was a critical success.
It was a critical success. Thank you.
It won pretty much every award. I'll try to find a list of them.
Yeah, there is one. It's 32 whole awards. So the budget, I did look that up, was $3.75 million to do all that shit.
That's cheap.
It is. They did about $50 million. So pretty good, not huge. Not
10 times.
10 times, not like The Rock numbers, but also very different movie.
Still a better return than The Rock, though.
True.
If you just compare the ratio of earnings to budget, that's wild. Okay, here we go. Here's the awards. 32 wins, 30 nominations. Academy Awards. Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, Best Writing, Screenplay. Boston Society of Film Critics Awards, Best Actor. BAFTA Awards, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role, Best Screenplay. Critics' Choice, Best Actor, Chicago Film Critics Association Awards, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director.
Oh my God.
Dallas Fort Worth, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director.
Wow.
They won everything.
I'm surprised Score wasn't on any of them. That's kind of interesting.
Directors Guild gave it to Mike Figgis. Golden Globes, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor. All
Just all of them.
the movie, the director, the main two leads won in every category.
Yeah.
All across the boards.
Well deserved.
Film Independent Spirit Awards, Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards, National Board of Review, National Society of Film Critics, New York Film Critics Circle Awards.
So, I mean, this just clearly set him up for the rest of his career. I mean, this solidified him as a top dog actor. Such big chops for this shit.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're the most sought after dramatic actor
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah. Wild.
And that's only 7 years after he was doing Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah.
And he had a
Which was
long sort of
critical
dry
failure.
spell. Yeah, a failure. That's a crazy come up, man.
Yeah. And then to go from this into fucking The Rock.
Into a string of action.
Yeah.
The Rock, Con Air, Face Off.
Yeah. So interesting choice, too, that he went from that to action. Do you think that was for money or for change?
Man, I'm sure we could find an interview
Yeah.
of him explaining it for himself, but I don't know. He's always had a reputation of just sort of like being a little bit indiscriminate.
Yeah.
He just sort of does whatever he's attracted to in the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the type of person with a plan in terms of like needing to have some sort of admirable trajectory. Like, oh, well, first I won my Oscar, so then I have to do another drama and really like get into
building. Yeah.
He's like, fuck it, dude. Whatever script comes across his desk, if he likes the characters, he likes the energy of it, I think he just does it.
Yeah. I respect the fuck out of that. That's a really cool way to do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not such a highbrow, you know?
And he's been pretty vocal in public about money.
Yeah.
He is a money-oriented person for sure. He's
Yeah.
a lavish person. Some of the shit he's bought, he bought like a pyramid in New Orleans.
What? A pyramid?
It's his own like tomb or something. He bought like a Nicolas Cage pyramid tomb that was like $50 million or some shit like that. He bought some sort of egg, like
An egg? Like a dinosaur egg?
I gotta look it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it wasn't an egg, it was a skull.
Of course.
Number one on this list, dinosaur skulls.
That's
A self-proclaimed history buff, Cage allegedly outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for a 60 million year old Tarbosaurus skull valued at over $300,000. He has also apparently had other dinosaur skulls. So he's doing a little bit of real life national treasure here.
I like it. Yeah. He's an archaeologist, bro.
Yeah. 2 albino king cobras. Allegedly, Cage used the
Snakes.
cobras for protection.
A slithery little snake.
2 Bahama Islands. Cage
Nice.
bought a 40-acre, $7 million island for
As would
private
I.
use. The Shah of Iran's Lamborghini. Exotic cars and motorcycles, luxury yachts,
Okay, so he likes nice things, is what we're getting at here.
a famous haunted house. Cage bought this famed New Orleans house in 2006 for $3.4 million. Supposedly, the house belonged to a socialite serial killer named Madame LaLaurie, the inspiration for Kathy Bates in American Horror Story Coven.
Oh,
So
cool.
he bought her haunted New Orleans mansion.
Neat.
Yeah. Shrunken pygmy heads. Oh, pyramid tombstone. This 9-foot tall pyramid tombstone is engraved with Omni ab uno, Latin for everything from one.
He's such a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, the
I
list goes
love
on.
it. Oh,
Like,
I'm sure.
It just goes on. The man spends money like water.
Yeah.
So I bet there's a pretty big payout for a Michael Bay
Oh, yeah.
action movie.
For sure.
He probably had many offers for dramas and was like,
If this ain't capping me.
how much are you paying me?
Not 40 million?
Insane.
Super cool.
An artist pursuing money.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you gotta, kind of, if you want to stay relevant and afloat. And buy dinosaur skulls.
Dinosaur skulls aren't paying for themselves.
No, of course not. You can't just sell those.
I liked in this movie the delayed intro credits.
Agreed.
There's like a full prologue of this movie. At least 10 minutes go in.
Well, I think it's his life kind of before. Right?
Yeah. It's like everything that's happening before he comes to Las Vegas. And then, you know, he's driving and drinking into Las Vegas. And then they cue the credits. And you're already in the movie. And then you start seeing the title and the actors' names. And I don't know. It was a fun choice.
Yeah.
I thought it was sort of classy.
Yeah. All of the little flash edits to like the Las Vegas billboards were really neat. Like some of them, I can't remember what they were saying, but like there was poignant stuff for sure.
It was all on theme, and it was always like, it was never just filler. You know, I feel like a lot of modern movies, they'll just like show a setting, and it's like a drone shot.
Yeah.
And then now we cut into like the wide shot of the lobby, and then we're up close to our characters, and now we're in a scene.
Yeah.
But all of that is just filler.
Yeah,
it's just
for
stage
sure.
setting.
Pass the time.
But like in this movie, when they're showing you things, it's all purpose driven.
Yeah.
It's all establishing a theme or like layering on top of an emotion, and it's pulling you and making you feel certain things.
Yeah.
So that way, when the next scene starts, you're already primed to, to feel a certain way. It was really good directing.
Really good. And I don't know. I mean, we could look this up. I don't think Mike Figgis ever had anything close to that successful again.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
He's English. He's also a composer. He did all the music for the movie.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
Me too. Because the music for me was a huge part of the experience.
Really helps you feel.
I had a lot of moments where I was like in deep appreciation of like the way it was setting the mood.
Yeah. And sometimes the direct opposite of what you should be feeling, which is super, super interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how do you fucking top that, dude. It was perfect. That was one thing I thought. That was a perfect movie, in my opinion. I wouldn't have changed a single thing.
Yeah. Really, like no critiques.
No, it was the best Nick Cage movie I've ever seen. One of the best movies I've ever seen in general. Yeah, I'm glad you told me haunting, because it fucking was. To drink yourself to death.
The slow suicide is it's somehow so much darker.
So painful.
You know, like if you were to ask me to write a scene of a movie of a suicide or a suicidal person, for me, it's a moment of anguish that is resolved quickly and without recovery. Like it's a hanging. It's slashing your wrists or shooting yourself in the head. When you watch suicide by alcoholism, it's lasting for like 3 months.
Yeah. Not even, yeah. 40,
I don't know. 45 days is the timeline he said he was shooting for.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, and it's just so much more depressing, I think, or like.
I mean, we watched an hour and 11-minute suicide.
Right.
That's
exactly.
And that's fucked.
And at times he's laughing, he's crying, he's smiling, he's joking. It's like his life is still full of the entire range of human like emotion and experience.
Well, and that goes to touch on like, I mean, a lot of suicidal people put up that mask too. You know, they can still laugh, and you don't ever really expect some of the people that kill themselves. They are super nice, super fun. You know, it's different when it's an alcoholic death essentially, because you see the degrading of their health. But like,
and it's on the surface. It's like well understood that this is happening.
Yeah, but suicide in general. I mean, so many people that kill themselves are, to everyone around them, happy and fulfilled because they put that up for show.
There's another bizarre aspect of this film. Like the character, he's so open about his own misery and his willingness to be dead.
Yeah.
What does she say? She says, so drinking is just a way for you to kill yourself. And he says, killing myself is just a way for me to drink. Which really establishes how much more this is for him about drinking.
Yeah.
The mind of the alcoholic. Like,
in love with that shit.
he's in love with alcohol.
Yeah. More than women, more than even Sarah.
Yeah.
Which is...
Like, the only time they even come remotely close to, except for the very last scene, which is, we can touch on that because it's extremely sad, but the only time they come to becoming intimate is when she's pouring bourbon down her body, and he's like licking it off her nipples and stuff, and he seems genuinely aroused by her.
They were gonna go fuck, and then he
Yeah.
falls and breaks the table and gets glass in his fucking back and shit.
And he's laughing. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to clean it up. She's like, just go to bed.
Yeah.
But he was like aroused for the first time, it seemed like, by her because she was covered in booze. Like, that's how into the alcohol he is.
Literal. Yeah. Literally covered in booze.
One of the main sort of recurring motifs of this film is that she wants to please him sexually.
Yeah.
Because it's the main way she knows how to please people as a prostitute.
Yeah.
And from the very first scene where she tries to blow him and he's not interested and can't get it up,
Can
and
barely touch her.
yeah, he's like, yeah, his like tentative fingers hovering over her shoulder.
Yeah.
He's not really interested in the sex as much, or capable maybe of doing it. His body is like failing him.
Yeah.
And so one of the recurring motifs is that she keeps trying to have sex with him, or implying that they should have sex, or that flirting with him, and then it doesn't go anywhere. And finally, one of the last scenes, if it might be the last scene.
It is the last scene before he dies.
She finds him in his hotel room. It's dark. The shades are drawn. He's just shivering in bed from withdrawals. And she comforts him, and they finally have sex. She's like feeding him alcohol.
Yeah, so he can function.
So he can function.
Yeah.
She's on top and like riding like cowgirl.
Yeah.
They fuck.
Fall
He
asleep.
finishes. They fall asleep, and he dies while she's asleep.
Yeah, as I said earlier, just wakes up, looks at her, kind of like in disbelief that she's there, says, wow, looks to the other side, sees the bottle, and dies. Fucking crazy, man.
Brutal.
Seriously sad. Like,
Cue the music.
yeah,
It fades. It says leaving Las Vegas.
yeah, cut to black and then gone.
This was a movie that we needed some time to digest, for
Yeah.
sure. We didn't even come right to the studio and record after we watched it. We needed a break.
Yeah, it took a couple hours. I was like anxious about talking about this movie.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, this was not a lighthearted episode, man.
It's not.
What are we gonna watch next? Because I need a upper. Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna ping pong between the dramatic ones and the action movies, and then like the B movies, the sort of meme bad ones, then the good ones again.
Yeah.
So we'll go back and forth. I do think we need to give ourselves an upper next week.
Definitely. I would really appreciate a comedy. I think the the listeners probably would too.
Yeah. Either a comedy or like just a fun action.
Yeah,
movie.
totally.
Something
Con
like
Air or
Face
something.
Off could be good.
Yeah. John Travolta, baby.
Eventually we'll get to Wicker Man too, which is just going to be a barrel of laughs.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling this might be his darkest movie that we see. I haven't seen Raising Arizona, so I don't know how
Me
that
neither.
one goes.
He's even got some charming light comedies like The Weatherman,
Yeah.
Matchstick Men, which are like endearing and fun,
Yeah.
which we should watch as well. But yeah, we'll do something fun for you guys next week.
Sorry to bum everybody out.
It got heavy in here tonight, but
Good though. It was good. I'm glad.
life is like that sometimes.
It is.
man.
It's important to not shy away from it.
Yeah.
You know, and that movie honestly kind of shows, in a twisted sense, I think it's better to be more matter of fact about those subjects. You know.
Yeah, stare him straight in the face like she does with him, and said it's not a nuisance. It's not something that you brush off. It's like this is a reality, and you need to look it in its eyes and show some compassion.
Totally.
So get out there, guys. Do something nice for somebody.
Yeah. Call your mom. Tell her that you love her. You know.
Maybe put the flask away this week.
I didn't take a drink this one. I didn't need it.
We didn't drink the booty whiskey this
No,
episode.
that's too much.
2 on the nose.
No shit.
All right. Well, we love you guys.
Yeah, thank you for listening as always. I mean, this is Booty Whiskey,
episode 4 is in the bag. Next week we'll do something fun.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Cage in a bottle, scars deep as Vegas nights. Liquor tears, whiskey drops from neon lights. Dropping down the strip, eyes bloodshot, vision blurred. Falling in love with a dream, her voice ain't slurred. Prostitute smile, heart wrapped in tight leather. Nicholas crumbling, faded dreams light as a feather. Lost in the world, sweet sin tastes like decay. Body and soul drowning, drinking life away. Double shots of sorrow, love laced with regret. In Vegas fall they stumble, memories they both forget. Broken hearts in the desert, romance framed in pain. Caged by addiction, love and a whiskey rain. Stumble into her arms, a waltz of misery. Liquor in their veins, dance a twisted history. She whispered secrets, tears mixed with gin. Cage losing himself, life in a sin bin. Past life glimmers, the neon haze. Nicholas in the shadow, wander through this maze. Lust, love, death, the trifecta serve neat. Vegas heat sizzling, heart skip a beat. Double shots of sorrow, love laced with regret. In Vegas fog they stumble, memories they both forget. Broken hearts in the desert, romance framed in pain. Caged by addiction, love in a whiskey rain. Into her arms, a waltz of misery. Liquor in their veins, dance a twisted history. She whispered secrets, tears mixed with gin. Cage losing himself, life in a sin bin. Past life glimmers in neon haze. Nicholas in his shadow, wander through this maze. Lust, love, death, the trifecta serve neat. Vegas heat sizzling, heart skip a beat. Double shots of sorrow, love laced with regret. In Vegas fog they stumble, memories they both forget. Broken hearts in the desert, romance framed in pain. Caged by addiction, love in a whiskey rain. Jacob.